Fire blaze, fire blaze, fire blaze. I just start at it up, at it up, at it up. At it up, at it up, at it up. Fire blaze turn up, he then get burn up. Anyway, them say I just.
Mindset, Rastafari, another day above ground. Life is our ultimate position. And you know, say nothing no greater than that, no matter what go on top of everything that is going on. Great for you have the item here. Another day above ground, you know, say nothing no greater than that, alright? But I love the item to please push the like button and also share the video, because this video is a very important video that the item need to get out there. All right, it's regarding a Rastafari elder that have repatriated back to Africa. The geographical space that we're talking about is Gambia, to be specific. He's being held in prison there. His dreadlocks have been cut off. Zine. So this video is very important that the item share out there. All right. But before we got into, you know, everything, take a listen to this.
Greetings, honorable family. This is a public announcement. Jah Consuming Fire, brand new EP out now by Ija Star, featuring artists like Empress Matiposa out of the VI Virgin Island. This EP is consist of 7 tracks. Songs like Life, No Dignity, 360 Degrees, Plea My Cause. This EP is out on all digital download platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, and much more. 360 Degree is blazing. Temperature so high, we are steam and blaze with Charlie Sana, Hail Selassie I. Out now, Jah Consuming Fire. Check it out.
No call me no dark, trust me, fool. You know have to rate this.
Alright, so warm welcome again. Give thanks for being here. Alright, so what we are looking on? We are looking on a report that's been sent to Iman regarding the case of the 71-year-old Rastafari elder in Gambia. The elder name is David Dawada, right? He's been held in Gambia for a spliff, basically. He's been in prison for a spliff, and his dreadlocks have been cut off just for a spliff. What we have to take in consideration here before I go into the report that's been sent, we have to remember that everywhere of the laws and regulations that, you know, govern their country and you know, their place of abode, right? And you have to always respect the law of the land wherever you find yourself, regardless of what you might think, then what rights you might think that you have, then you must always remember the law of the land, and that is always must be respected. All right. So taking that into consideration, then that we must always remember the law of the land, that we can, you know, behave in a law-abiding manner. You understand that, you know, we don't get caught up into things that is deemed by the laws and policies of this specific place. You know what I mean? We're talking Gambia or anywhere in the world, right? So the case of Elder David is a serious one. Is a very serious one, because the elder is 71. all right? And being 71, repatriated, from the West here and go home, it would have look away like, when you're fighting for African people, black people, like yourself, it seems like your greatest opponent in the battle is ourselves, our same African black people, whether we're, in the diaspora or we are on the continent, we come up against this tremendous force, and it's from our own self, our own people. Zane is always giving us a pushback when we're, fighting for our rights. You know what I mean? So that being said, repatriating and going back to Africa is a way that we are helping Africa, right? And we shouldn't have to face these type of system, coming home and, doing so much for Africa. Because, us coming from the diaspora, we contribute in every era of Africa, whether it's, the economy, whether it's development, whether it's, schooling, and all these things always impact the economy, no matter what, right? So we are contributing tremendously, right? Because when we come home, we buy land most of the time, right? And then we start to develop and we go into business and these things. So I think, I'm not saying that we should be cutting slack, but things should be different for I and I coming home, especially Zane, as Rastafari. When within Rastafari, there are certain things that govern Rastafari community. You know what I mean? Wherever we find ourselves, these are the tenets and principles that I and I adhere to. And, marijuana is something sacred to us as Rastafari. We use it medicinally, Zane. So if we're being locked up for something that is God-given, right? Because these things is natural things. They are plants that grow naturally. It's not artificial things, These things are God-given. They were here before us. And we're going to go away and leave them here always. See? So we have to understand these things, that we can't lock up ourselves for these type of things. But anyway, I'm going to go into the report, Zane, and read what is being said here. The item can reason with me in the comment section. Let me know your views and thoughts on what the item here. Okay, so I'm quoting now a report on a serious human rights abuse in Gambia. Report on the case of David Dawada and the violation of human rights and cultural religious rights. The case of 71-year-old African-American Rastafarian David Dawada, detained in the Gambia Mile 2 prison for possession of a single marijuana joint, has drawn sharp condemnation from the human rights observers. The reported forcible removal of his dreadlocks, a sacred symbol of the Rastafarian faith, by Gambian authorities constitute a serve breach of human rights and religious freedom. This article examines the incident in the context of the Gambia legal system, prison conditions, and the international human rights framework violated, arguing for urgent intervention from the United Nations. David Dawada was reportedly arrested in Banjul for a minor possession of cannabis, a violation under the Gambian Harsh Drug Control Act of 2003, which prohibits all forms of marijuana use or possession, even for religious purposes. Possession of as little as 0.1 gram can lead to imprisonment, and judges have limited discretion due to the rigidity of the sentencing laws. Despite the minor nature of Dawada's alleged offense, he was remanded to Mile 2 prison, officially called Central State Prison, a facility long infamous for human rights violation, torture, and inhumane living conditions. During his detention, prison authorities forcibly shaved his dreadlocks, disregarding both his age and religious belief. For Rastafarian, dreadlocks symbolize spiritual commitment, identity, and a covenant with God. Cutting them is not only humiliating but deeply sacrilegious, akin to a forced religious conversion. Okay. The removal of Dawada locks is thus not a routine prison measures, but an act of religious persecution, violating multiple international conventions ratified by the Gambia, including the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. The notorious Mile 2 prison, a legacy of abuse. And I must tell you, this report is going into some details. The Mile 2 prison has a long history of abuse and inhumane treatment. Founded in 1920 during British colonial rule, it has been reportedly condemned by Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and the Gambia-owned Truth, Reconciliation and Repatriation Commission. The prison secretary wing is notorious for arbitrary beating, torture, inadequate food, lack of ventilation, and medical neglect. Former inmate testified before the TRRC that at least 41 people died from mistreatment and disease between 1994 and 2017. Even under the administration of President Amanda Barrow, the U.S. State Department 2023 Human Rights report, not ongoing report of harsh life-threatening prison condition and failure to meet international standard for humane treatment. Prisoners are often denied access to counsel, and foreign nationals like Dawat are particularly vulnerable to abuse without diplomatic assistance. Let's continue reading. The Gambian legal system continues to criminalize all aspects of cannabis use and possession. There is no distinction between personal, religious, or medical use, and defaulters face imprisonment or heavy fine. The Drug Law Enforcement Agency of the Gambia enforce zero tolerance policy, often employing aggressive tactics that disregard due process. Leaf well. This legal stance conflict with the African Commission on Human and People's Rights requirement that panel policies adhere to proportionately and non-discrimination principles. Furthermore, Article 18 of the Gambian Constitution guarantee freedom of conscience and religious foreseeable. Removing Dawat dreadlocks effectively violates his constitutional rights. Given his status as a foreign national, Dawit case also engaged international counselors' rights under the Geneva Convention on Consular Relations 1963, which requires that foreign detainees be promptly allowed contact with their embassy. Failure to meet this obligation places Gambia in breach of international diplomatic norms. I don't see why that is in there, because the Rastafari elder is an African man. This shouldn't, he's African, you know what I mean? Yeah, but me understand the legal of these things, but he's African, and this is where these things need to change. We shouldn't have to refer to these relations, you know what I mean? Anyway, let's continue reading. Religious freedom and Rastafarian identity. The Rastafarian faith originated in Jamaica during the 1930s and is recognized globally as a legitimate religious movement. Dreadlocks are not a stylistic choice, but an integral part of the Rastafarian theology, reflecting the Nazarene vow in the Bible. In several African countries, including Ghana and St. Kitts, Rastafarians continue to face systematic discrimination, particularly in prison and schools where dreadlocks are forcibly cut. Then, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Freedom, Religion, or Belief recognize the right of individuals to maintain distinctive physical appearance tied to their religion. Cutting Dawat hair constitute human and degrading treatment, inhumane and degrading treatment under Article 7 of the ICCPR. and Article 5 of the African Charter, legal implication under international laws. So we just go through the thing, when itch. From a legal perspective now, several international covenants have been violated in this case. Article 1. Article 9 of the ICCPR agree or guarantee freedom from arbitrary arrest and detention, detaining a 71-year-old man for a joint of cannabis constitute disproportionate punishment, failing the necessary test. Article 18 of the ICCPR ensure that the right of manifesting religion in practice, observance, and teaching for saber cutting dreadlocks deny this right. Article 10 of the ICCPR mandate human treatment of prisoners. Article 5 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights prohibit all form of degradation or inhumane treatment. Convention against torture prohibits any act that causes suffering inflicted by or at the indigestion of public official. Violation under these conventions can trigger international compliant mechanism. The UN Human Rights Committee may receive individual complaint under the optional protocol to the ICCPR provided domestic remedies are exhausted. The United Nations potential role. The United Nations, through agencies like Office of High Commission for Human Rights and the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, has the mandate to intervene where gross abuse occur. In Gambia, previous review by the Universal Periodic Review, the country was advised to improve prison condition and respect freedom of religion, yet compliance remain weak. Direct UN engagement could include demanding immediate release of humanitarian pardon of David Dawada, issuing an urgent appeal to the Gambian government to investigate in the incident, sending a special reporter mission to inspect condition at the Mile 2 prison, recommending compensation and guarantee of non-repetition under the basic principle of the right to a remedy. Furthermore, if state level remedies fail, the African Court of Human and People's Rights could be petitioned to review David's detention, alleging discriminatory and degrading treatment. The broader context, pardon of abuse. This incident is not isolated to Gambia prison let's read this again. This incident is not isolated. The Gambia prison have historically been a center of repression. Despite domestic transition in 2017, the justice system retained structural weakness rooted in the Yahya Yamin era. Arbitrary justice lacked of transparency and impunity continue to undermine rights enforcement. Reports by Amnesty International and the Human Rights Watch have reportedly documented torture, overcrowding, and denial of medical care at a Mile 2 prison for prisoners like Dawad. Such conditions pose acute health risk, especially given his age, being 71-year-old. To restore justice and prevent reoccurrence, the following steps are crucial. Immediate independent investigation into the abuse against Darat with this disciplinary action against prison officials involved. Medical and physiological evaluation for Dawat and restitution for religious humiliation. Legal reform of the Drug Control Act to introduce proportionate sentencing and alternative to incarceration. Human rights training for law enforcement and prison staff. Engagement with Rastafarian organization to ensure religious tolerance. And that is the path forward for justice, redress, and reform. Let's continue reading. Reform of the Gambia panel and judicial apparatus must align with international norms, ensuring that spiritual expression and personal dignity are not subjugated under Pondiv laws. Yeah. Conclusion of this report of Rastafari Elder David Dawat. David Dawat ordeal symbolize more than an individual injustice. Its height of systematic patterns of religious discrimination, excessive punishment, and institutionalized abuse within the Gambia justice system. His forced haircut is an assault on identity, faith, and human dignity, violating both domestic and international legal standard. If left unaddressed, this case risks reinforcing global perception of Gambia as a state indifferent to human rights. And the onus now lies on both the Gambian government and the international community, particularly the United Nations, to ensure accountability, redress, reform. And human rights are not privilege but fundamental entitlement of every individual. The case of David Dawat demands urgent attention and reaffirm that principle. All right, so that is end of quote of this report. Reason with us in the comment section. Let me know your views and thoughts and what's been said here. I'll drop a link in the comment section so you can have a full read of this report. All right, mindset, Rastafari, peace and love.